Chapter 61. Coming home later that afternoon, I quickly noticed the stark change in the air with no April lurking about. It was great. The cloud over the Almeida house had finally been lifted. I had just collected Henry from school and curiously glanced around the deserted house. No Marcos. Where was he? Must be up in the office. I saw Lydia busily fluffing the pillows in the living room. "Hello, Miss Bunny," she said, hitting the cushions hard, wiping her hands on her apron. "Hey, Lydia, how's your day?" I said, rubbing her back. "Fine," she said, panting. "Senor looking for you." "Oh, is he?" I wondered. "Where is he?" Not sure, Miss Bunny." Lydia shrugged her shoulders. "Maybe in office." Suddenly, my gold iPhone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and glanced at the text. "Where's my lady?" My heart melted. I fumbled at the screen. "Your lady has just brought your son home. Where are you?" A minute later, the phone buzzed again. "In the office. I need your hugs." I swiftly walked out from the house and weaved through the gardens, the beautiful afternoon sun warming my back. I tapped my fingers over the iPhone. "I'm just going to my quarters." I peered up at Marcus's office and saw him walk out onto the terrace bluff, his lean, tan body eating the sun as his striking face preyed on me down below. The lion on his mountain. I stopped, smiling at him until he walked back inside. I got to my front door and saw my beloved silver Manolo stiletto outside. "How the hell did you get out here?" I crouched down picking it up, watching as it glimmered within the sunlight. Opening my door, I walked into the coolness of my quarters, dropped my shoe in the closet, and went to chill out in the living room. Several minutes later, I heard my bedroom door close. My heart stirred. Hearing the slow, soft footsteps in the other room, I knew a force had entered. I turned over my shoulder. There was my man, Marcos, standing in the doorway, sucking the breath from my lungs. "Hello," he said quietly, destroying me with those dark eyes. "Hello," I purred excitedly. Walking into the living room, his looming presence came toward me until he wrapped his sun-kissed body around mine, scooping me up off the floor as I crumpled into his arms. He let out a long, heavy sigh, rubbing my back with intense affection. Oh my God, I muttered, hearing his heart thump through his chest. "What?" he murmured, peering down at me. "Like, how can you get any work done?" I quizzed him, snuggling my face into his chest. "I can barely concentrate for no longer than a minute when you're around." "I have that influence," he smiled, holding my face in his hands. "I've been waiting for these hugs all day," he said, kissing me with his delicious lips. Dying. "How did everything go this morning?" "Fine, my lady." He pulled me onto his lap on the sofa. "You did the right thing this morning," he said, squeezing my thigh within the palms of his strong olive hands. It felt right, I answered him. Henry and Seth had nothing to do with this. "I know," he said, speaking quietly. "April's on another tangent." We sat in silence, glancing out over the sparkling blue ocean. "Have you had lunch?" I asked. "A little," he said. "Have you?" "I had lunch with Dale," I answered, wrapping my arms around his neck, softer than velvet. "Oh, and how's Dale today?" he asked, rubbing his hand over my backside. "She's fine. She asked us both to dinner at her house tomorrow night." Marcos glared at me. Me and you? Yes, I smiled. She knows. Marcos furrowed his brows, looking tickled. Did you tell her? I shook my head. No, she guessed it. She said to me, a young woman like me on my salary can't afford diamonds. You wore them with her? Just the earrings, last Friday night. Marcos smirked, leaning his head back. So, what does Dale think about us? She told me to be careful. Well, you already are. And she told me to get on the pill. Marcos burst out laughing. I don't want you on the pill, he murmured, pulling me closer to him, clenching his jaw as a bubble of lust glazed over his face. I want you to have my babies. I cried out laughing. Oh, that would go down just great with my job. I nuzzled my face into his neck as he leaned his head against mine. It would, he said whimsically. Just imagine our babies. Ah, they'd be so beautiful. They would be, I smiled. I could just picture it. Little Almeidas running around the place. We shared more soft silence as I ran my nails through his soft hair, listening to the birds playing outside amongst the small grove of citrus trees. So, do you want to come to dinner? I asked. Henry's at Seth's, so it should work out. Sure. Marcos stretched back on the sofa. Our first date together. I grinned, rubbing my hand over his big chest. He was so laid back about everything between us. Unexpectedly, we quickly saw Lydia coming up the garden path toward the front door of my quarters. Oh, shit! I cried out, startled, about to jump out of Marcos's lap. Relax, relax, he laughed, holding me firmly against him. Standing outside the door, Lydia peered through the glass and immediately saw the two of us cuddling on the sofa. Oh, my cheeks burst with redness. Utterly embarrassed was an understatement. Don't blush, Bonnet, Marcos murmured, tugging my hands away from my mortified face. You're with me, and I'm El Jefe. Lydia came inside. Hola, senor, she said politely, not even slightly looking surprised to see us canoodling together. Hello, Miss Bonnie. Hi, Lydia. I muttered through my flushed cheeks, dying to get off of Marcos's lap. ¿Cómo estás, Lydia? Marcos said, glancing up at her. Senor, Jorge want to finish early for today, she stated, throwing a tea towel over her shoulder. He say he need more parts for irrigation around fig trees. No hay problema. Marcos nodded, that drooling Spanish accent making my body squirm. Talk to me in Spanish when we make love. Muchas gracias, senor. Lydia then turned to me. Miss Bonnie, I left your shoe outside your bedroom door. Did you get it? You left it at the other house. Oh, Bonnie, you moron. Yes, thanks, Lydia, for that. Lydia shut the door behind her and walked back down through the gardens. You see? Marcos murmured, squeezing me closer to him. She wasn't even shocked seeing me here with you. She already knew. You left your damn shoe over there. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I gasped, dropping my sorry face into my hands. She may be the housekeeper, Marcos said carefully, but she is the mouse of the house. She knows everything. I love her, I said, watching her stroll down toward Jorge's pickup truck in the drive. Me too, Marcos muttered, kissing my cheek. So, what are you cooking me and Henry tonight? I glanced at that beautiful face. He looked so peaceful. I'll go and see what Dave has left me in the fridge. Good. Marcus kissed me. I need to go and call Lucas. Chapter 62. Later that night, I pulled out a chicken and a smorgasbord of assorted vegetables. Marcus was easy to please. He won't mind a good old roast chicken and veg. Henry came down from the stairs. "Hey, Henry," I said, chopping at some fennel. "Hey," he grunted. Teenagers. "How was school?" I asked brightly. "The same." I laughed at his less than enthused response and threw all the food in the oven trays as he sat down at the kitchen counter, managing to squeeze some small talk out of him for the next hour. I heard a door closing in another room, followed by those unmistakable slow footsteps. Marcus came into the kitchen, freshly showered, and it wasn't before long that I got lost in that frightfully luscious cologne of his. "Ah, hello, my son," he chimed, giving Henry a sturdy pat on the back. "Oh, hey, puppy," he answered. The kid just lacked luster. How? It was the total opposite to his father. Had to be an April trait. Marcus gave me a small smile and then frowned over at Henry, glued to his iPad. I walked into the pantry to get some bread. "Have you done your homework?" I heard Marcus say, hearing his footsteps draw closer to me. "Yeah," Henry answered nonchalantly, hypnotized by World of Warcraft. Marcus came into the pantry with that look of lust glazed over him and thrust his tongue gently into my mouth, holding my face close to his for several seconds, breathing into my mouth. "I just needed to taste you," he whispered, and then duly walked out. I shook my head, snickering to myself. "Growing more risque by the minute you are, Marcus." "So, how was school?" Marcus asked, switching back into parent mode. Come on, son," he sighed impatiently. "Turn that thing off. I'm talking to you now." Coming out of the pantry, I watched Henry stretch his lanky arms above his head. "School is so boring," he yawned. I suddenly heard a change of music, and it quickly got Henry's attention. "Oh no," Henry groaned, hiding his face. "Puppy's put the traditional music on." "It's good music," I grinned at him, tapping my foot. Now this is more like it," Marcus said, coming back into the kitchen, starting to bust out in some salsa moves as I pulled the chicken from the oven. "Oh, Puppy, stop!" Henry pleaded. "You're embarrassing." The man is impossible. On top of everything else that is extraordinary about him, Marcus Almeida can really fucking dance. "Wow," I gasped, watching him in awe. "You're an amazing dancer." I watched him with suggestive eyes as he watched me. It turned me the hell on watching him dance, and he knew it. God damn, Marcus. "Henry, come on, look at Puppy!" I nudged him. "Oh my God, I can't." He squeezed his eyes shut in his hands. "It's too embarrassing." I glanced back at Marcus. "You are a natural," I cried, loving his little performance. "I'm Colombian," Marcus laughed, prematurely stopping. He pulled some juice from the fridge and poured the three of us a glass. Looking happy, he went and sat at the table. So, what's for dinner, Bon?" he said, stretching back, his arm resting on April's empty chair beside him. "So glad that bitch is not here." Roast chicken and vegetables," I smiled. "Sounds delicious," he said, watching me with those eyes, slightly licking the corner of his mouth. I knew he wasn't referring to the chicken. My insides quivered. Henry, meanwhile, was oblivious to anything unfolding between us. His head remained glued to the iPad. Marcus watched me, his low, sensual eyes crawling over my skin as I walked toward the dinner table, clutching the hot tray of chicken. As soon as I put it on the sleek dinner table, he abruptly gripped his strong hands over my wrists and planted his hungry lips softly onto mine. Oh God, this man loved walking on thin ice. No, I mouthed silently, looking over my shoulder at Henry, barely an arm's length away from us. I could see the thrill bouncing within Marcus's dark pupils as he laughed. Come to the table, Henry. Like a zombie, Henry obligingly came to the table with his iPad. Leave that thing on the counter, Marcus ordered firmly. Puppy wasn't playing. Without question, Henry paused the game and sat down as I brought the other tray of vegetables over. Thank you, Bunny, Marcus said, raising his glass. You're welcome, I nodded, clanking our glasses together, becoming enveloped within the lovely sounds of Spanish music. Chapter 63. After helping me clear the table and stack the dishwasher, Henry disappeared upstairs, and I watched Marcus pacing back and forth in the living room, talking to April on his cell. Several minutes later, he finally finished the phone call and put his cell in his pocket. So, how is she? I asked. I really didn't care anyway. Fine, Marcus answered quickly, clutching my waist and pinning me against the fridge, kissing me softly. A mischievous grin spread across his lips. What? I glared at him curiously. He took my hand and dragged me into the living room. Oh no, no, I can't dance, I hissed as he held me against his warm body, slowly rocking me back and forth to the rhythm of the music. Yes, you can, Marcus smiled, glancing down at me. I quietly laughed. If Henry catches us, he won't. Marcus quickly muttered, squeezing me closer as his feet moved in perfect timing. I, on the other hand, was clumsily stepping all over them. So, teach me how to dance, Colombian man, I murmured, gazing into his endless eyes. Guiding my feet with his, Marcus managed to get me into a slow rhythm. Forward 1, 2, 3, back 5, 6, 7. And again. 1, 2, 3, back 5, 6, 7. I began to pick up the pace and started swinging my hips, getting right into it. Marcus was impressed. My lady, he beamed, lacing his fingers through mine. You have natural rhythm. I began to feel warm and fuzzy all over. Well, I have the best teacher, I smiled. Marcus pulled my arms over his shoulders, pressing himself against me even closer. I could feel our hearts beating together as he studied my face. Eventually, he leaned forward and slipped that warm, wet tongue into my mouth. Wow. His kiss alone was capable of changing a person's life path. Yes, Marcus was that good. That sensuous tongue, taking me to other worlds again, passionately forcing its way deep down into my throat, leaving its signature as it always did. Puppy! Henry suddenly bellowed from upstairs, killing our tender moment. We immediately separated. I'll see you later, he muttered, kissing my ear, and deftly went upstairs. I walked outside into the night, sucking in the ocean air in through my lungs, smiling to myself as I walked down through the dark gardens. I don't know what time it was when I felt my blankets ripple around my body, but it was late. I abruptly felt that warm, naked body of Marcus's press up against my tailbone, spooning me from behind and molding his strong physique into mine. "My lady," he whispered, kissing the nape of my neck. "Oh, I love you," I moaned sleepily, rolling over and feeling my inner thighs begin to slip just at his mere touch. "I love you," he muttered, continuing to rub himself slowly yet firmly into me. I was convinced the inevitable was going to ensue, but before I knew it, Marcus's rubbing became slower and slower until, lo and behold, he had drearily fallen asleep on top of me. It was all over, even before it began. Chapter 64. I opened my eyes through the hazy sunlight streaming over the horizon the next morning and still felt that heavy, deliciously warm body plastered against mine. What a miracle! I glanced at the clock. 7:42 a.m. I twisted my head and glanced at Marcus's beautifully peaceful face. Those dark eyes rolling under his eyelids, watching his chest slowly rise and fall, lost in a deep, silent world. I was so happy he was sleeping, because he never did when that other bitch was home. Trying my best not to disturb him, I slipped out of bed and tiptoed into the closet to quickly get dressed and make my way up to the house. "Morning, Miss Bunny," Lydia said, putting Henry's lunch in his bag. "Morning, Lydia," I smiled. I had already come to terms with Lydia busting Marcus and I together yesterday, so I was relaxed when I saw her. And like Marcus said, she already knew anyway. "Henry has his party clothes in this bag," she said, handing me another backpack. "He'll go straight to Seth's house." "Okay, thank you." I zoomed off to school and came back to the house around 9 a.m. as usual. I strolled into the atrium and saw Marcus, in his sweats, holding the financial review in front of his face. I smiled to myself. Hearing my footsteps, he turned over his shoulder and immediately stood to his feet, putting his paper down on the table. He grabbed me in his arms. "Oh, my lady," he moaned, hugging me, running his hands over my face. "I've wanted to do this forever in here." "Good morning, puppy." I kissed his soft lips, burying myself into his chest. I watched Lydia spraying down the kitchen counter, no doubt getting an eyeful of us lovebirds. Thank God Dave wasn't in the kitchen. Too bad, even if he was. "Come, eat breakfast with me," Marcus said, pulling out my chair. Ever the gentleman. "Thank you," I beamed, squeezing his hand. I picked out several slices of mango, and just when I thought Marcus couldn't get any sweeter, he took the teapot and poured my tea for me, and even put in my 2 spoonfuls of sugar. He had been paying very close attention to everything. He was unreal, a man of the ultimate detail. I shook my head. "You are unbelievable," I laughed, touching his thigh tenderly. "I am so impressed." He smiled. "I don't do it for everyone." "I know," I grinned. "I'm so lucky." I quickly thought about my bank balance, watching Marcus throw some poached eggs on toast into his mouth. "Baby," I began, sipping my tea. I noticed I'm getting a paycheck of $20,000 per week. I think there's a glitch. I was going to call Peggy yesterday, but I thought I'd ask you first. Marcus swallowed his mouthful. No glitch, my lady, he muttered, cutting into his toast. It's our arrangement, remember? Yes, but I thought I was getting an extra $1,000 per week. Marcus nodded. Well, I changed my mind. I bit my lower lip, feeling uneasy. It's a lot of money. It's nothing, he quickly rebuffed, stroking my thigh. Nothing in comparison to how happy you've made me. You've made me a happy man, Bonnet, and to me, that's priceless. Suddenly, the terrible sound of a helicopter was heard coming in over the property. We both glanced outside through the large colocasia palms. Do you need any more, my lady? Marcus asked me. What? No! Are you joking right now? I stammered, glaring at him disbelievingly. I was happy even with only $1,000 per week. Well, things change. Marcus furrowed a brow. Things do change, I murmured, fondling the side of his face. Chapter 65. Suddenly, Lydia walked in with two men dressed in sharp navy suits, carrying briefcases and numerous files. It was Lucas and Philippe. I'd never actually been introduced to them, but knew who they were. Marcus and I immediately stood to our feet. Lucas, Philippe, he said, firmly shaking their hands. This is Bonnie. I guess the office is coming home today. Good morning, I politely smiled, shaking their hands. Good morning, Bonnie. Pleasure to meet you. Please, sit, Marcus offered. Would you both like some breakfast? Lucas and Philippe exchanged a look, shrugging at each other. Sure. Eggs on toast? Marcus offered. Bacon? Yeah, great. They nodded. Lydia, please ask Dave to cook 2 more plates of bacon and eggs. Of course, senor. Lydia quickly nodded, scooting away into the kitchen. So, Marcus spoke, settling back down in his chair. What's the latest, gentlemen? Well, Arthur Lim has confirmed Zahn's offer has increased by 25%, Philippe said, retrieving some documents from his briefcase. Marcus raised a dubious eyebrow. He really wants those rights, doesn't he? I think you should accept, Philippe suggested, nodding his head. I mean, it's such a large sum he's offering. We may not get it again. I'm not accepting, Marcus dismissed quickly, shaking his head defiantly. Solokov was smart by getting in on this early. He was direct, saw the window of potential, and executed flawlessly. We need to work on Zahn. If he acquired those land rights, that means China controls that section of the Alaskan frontier. That cannot happen. I sat back quietly, eating my mango, becoming engulfed within the business world of Marcus Almeida. So what do you suggest? Lucas asked, sighing. We need to earn Zahn's loyalty, his trust, Marcus answered quietly. Then perhaps he will give us an offer without the inclusion of the land rights. He crossed a leg over the other, sipping his coffee. Lim tells me he's an ardent boxing fan, and that Golovkin-Alvarez fight is coming up at the MGM in Vegas. We fly Zahn and his people out here, get them ringside seats. Oh, it's completely sold out, Philippe interjected quickly. That fight sold out within an hour. I couldn't even get regular seats, even through my guys. Marcus was unfazed. I'll make a call. He nodded at Philippe. Lucas and Philippe glared at each other. They didn't even question it. They knew all too well what Marcus was capable of. I quickly ate my fruit, drank my tea, and excused myself, feeling as my other iPhone vibrated like mad in my pocket. "I'll see you later," Marcos said, standing to his feet with Lucas and Philippe following suit. "Okay," I smiled. We shared a quick glance, and I walked out, leaving them to it. Silly me. Now here I was thinking I would get a break once April was settled up in Boise. But boy, was I wrong. The bitch had emails and texts back up for a mile on my iPhone. Hence all the buzzing at the breakfast table. She was doing my head in. Oh, just fuck off, April. Everything she wanted me to do could wait. Why? Because I damn well said so. I walked into my quarters to straighten up my bedroom and have a shower. But strangely, I went in to find that my bed had already been made, and on top of it was a black card attached to a note. I crept closer. It was a black credit card. A goddamn Centurion Amex. Holy Jesus! I didn't even own a credit card, but I knew what the Centurion was. Didn't everybody? I glanced at the numbers etched over the smooth titanium, reading the note scribbled in pen. "Go shopping, my lady, and buy a new dress for dinner tonight. And please buy me a new shirt, size L." Yeah, because you ripped up everything else, I sniggered to myself. I slipped the Centurion card carefully inside my wallet, and forgetting all about the shower, I put on some fancy clothes, drew on some lips, and went out the door. Chapter 66. I drove down State Street and was ready for some serious spending in Saks. Weaving through all the displays of beautiful dresses and racks of designer clothing in the store, I suddenly noticed a tall blonde woman out the corner of my eye. I turned and quickly saw it was Oksana. My stomach instantly clenched into a ball. Oh no. I hastily turned away, hoping she didn't see me. Moments later, I heard those hideous high heels clacking along the white tiles of the floor toward me. Just great. "Hi, Bonnie," I heard her wretched voice with that slurring Russian overtone. I could feel my toenails become brittle. I glanced up from the price tag on the dress I was looking at. "Hi," I muttered, giving her an unenthused face. She knew right from the get-go that I had no interest in talking to her. Oksana looked withdrawn and had hardly a stitch of makeup on her face. Now that was a first. And even more unbelievably, there were no diamonds on her today either. What the hell was going on? "I just wanted to let you know," she spoke quietly. "I appreciate what you did." And what was that exactly? I retorted, showing her no mercy. Lying to April? Well, yeah, she stammered awkwardly. "Well, just so we're clear," I pointed out stiffly. "I didn't do it for you. I did it for Henry and Seth." "I know you did, and I appreciate it," she interjected, her voice starting to shake. "Kids are saying terrible things to Seth at school." She looked like she was about to burst into tears. "The school office called me, and now half of his friends aren't coming to his birthday tonight." "Well, you should have thought about that before you went and opened your legs." "I'm sorry to hear that," I blurted out. "I've done a terrible thing, I know," she sniffled as a tiny tear fell and rolled down her cheek. "Fred's been great." "Oh, whore, please, don't cry on me." "Well, look, it's no one's business what you did or even do," I said. "It's just the way you did it." I know, she muttered, wiping her tears running from her red eyes. I need to live with that. Well, look. Anyway, Henry will be there, I replied, forcing a pathetic smile between my lips. Yes, April called, and she was happy to have Henry come home with Seth. Okay then. Well, she fumbled, sighing deeply. I won't take any more of your time. I just wanted to say thank you. I reluctantly nodded, not wanting, nor needing, to say anything more to Oksana. I stood there watching her walk off, wallowing in her despicable self-pity. But as much as I hated her, I kind of felt a little sorry for her. After staggering through the thousands of dresses in the evening wear section, I settled on a beautiful black, knee-length escada dress. I also bought some scary high black Louboutin heels, and then an hour later, I found myself in the men's section, managing to find a pair of grey Kenyali silk trousers, along with a white Kenyali button shirt, plus a grey Carrington Gibbs 5-button vest. The whole outfit screamed Marcos. Oh yes, Bonnie looked after her man. He was in for a nice little surprise. And just to top it off, I bought him some gold Burberry cufflinks. I stood at the checkout and whipped out that fuck you Centurion card to pay for the damage. The faces behind the counter quickly changed, and I was suddenly given more than warranted attention. Funny how people change like that. Chapter 67. After a mango smoothie and a quick stop at Borders, I dragged myself home by late afternoon to a house with no Marcos. Instead, I was greeted by Lydia, who was having a cup of tea. The poor woman looked relaxed without April breathing down her neck 24 hours a day. Hi, Lydia, I said, pulling up a seat beside her, flopping the designer bags onto the kitchen counter. You look tired, Miss Bonnie. Shopping is hard work, I sighed, glancing at her with my head on the cool marble. Where is Senor? Senor having meeting in office. Did he have lunch? I don't know. Lydia shrugged her shoulders, sipping her tea. Maybe not. I bought him an outfit. I grinned, pulling it from the bag. We have dinner with a friend tonight. Ah, he will look handsome, she nodded, rubbing the silk trousers. Nice color. Thank you. And what did you buy, Miss Bonnie? Oh, just a pretty black dress, I said, pulling it from the tissue and draping it over Marcos's clothes. Lydia gave me her sweetest smile. Miss Bonnie, she murmured, touching my hand affectionately. Senor, he really love you. I glared at Lydia, surprised she talked so openly about it. What did he tell you? I asked inquisitively. I knew. She nodded, her round face as genuine as they come. The first few weeks when you came to the house, the way he talked about you in my language to me. A woman, especially a Spanish woman, knows these things about Spanish men. I sat in silence, inhaling deeply. I felt the same about him too, Lydia. She looked at my face. Don't worry, Miss Bonnie, she said, patting her hand on my shoulder. I know many secrets about Senor. He also told me about this about you, I replied quietly, my eyes looking around the spotless kitchen. I just don't understand why he is married to April. He was young and she get pregnant. But he is a good man and good father. He does things the right way. Even if it's at his own expense, I mumbled. Yes, he had very hard life, Miss Bonnie, she said, taking my hand. He is a strong man, and the strong man, he do like this. But he change when you come into the house, Miss Bonnie. You make him happy again. I know this, because for so long, he not happy. We would not see him for weeks and weeks at the house. We worried about him. I smiled, hearing her heartfelt words. I liked this candid conversation we had. He makes me so happy, I gushed quietly, feeling myself become overwhelmed with emotion. I feel like the luckiest girl in the world. If only he marry a woman like you, Miss Bonnie. Your heart is pure. Does everybody in the house know about us? I wondered. Only me, she smiled. Not Lola? She shook her head. No. She stroked my face. Don't worry, Miss Bonnie. She stood to her feet, hugging me. It all okay. Senor like son to me. He take care of my whole family. He buy my house for me and my husband in Oxnard and send money to my family in Mexico every year. He is very special man. I felt the tears well in my eyes. I know he is. I have never met anyone like him before. She pulled away from me gently. I will steam these clothes for him. Thank you.